Hello and welcome to turn 8 of GMT's Wing Leaders Eagles 43 to 45 Operation Meridian 1 scenario, and the game's by Lee Brimacombe Wood. Right, we're getting to the crunch here, I think, where we have some of the bombers are able to actually bomb the target here, so we will be executing what's known as bombing profiles this turn. Which happens during movement. So first thing we need to do is the tally phase. So looking at raiders first, Q, R, T and S here, they're bombers, they don't tally. So we're actually only left with two fighter units which can tally, A and H. They have already tallied A, this guy here, that's A and H here, but A is now broken. So that's not going to attack the bombers anymore, so we should really remove those tallies. They're up here off the chart, so we should see where we want to designate those tallies now. Looking at the Japanese, we have O and F here, and D here as being, so there's three fighters left here. Who do we target? Now we have D, F and O are here. D is here, F is here, and O is where is O? Good question, can't find O. O is here. So these three here. Now the Hellcat and the Corsair are actually there. So these are all behind, so it'll be pretty tough to spot them, but we'll have a go. So with the Corsair here, I think we'll try and pick up D here, because that's a flight. And then A will try and pick up F as well. So H to D. If we're doing the tally roll, we have nobody has tallied them at all. Not surprising that these are the last two guys, and we don't have any. Do we have any veteran status? No, we have no veteran status anymore, and the target is behind, which is a -2. So H to D, 1, 2, and then -2 on the dice. So it's not likely. So we'll look at that, and let's see what we roll. A 3, that's not successful, so no tally. And A here will try. Actually, I think he'll go for F, as I said. So A to F, it's behind, so that's a 1. It's a 1 space behind -2, and there's also a wispy cloud here, so it's -3. But we only need more than a 1. So let's see how that goes. A 6 -3 is 3, so it's bigger than 1, so we do have a tally. So A is able to tally F. Right. Okay. So, and that's all that's left for the on the Allied side. All these broken squadrons and flights don't tally anymore. Onto the Japanese side. So F has tallied T, a bomber, which is great. I think that'll be fine if we can go for that. The other thing, of course, is that these bombers will be diving down on the target here, in which case we don't want the fighters necessarily following down into the barrage. So that's something to be aware of. So that's F done. O here. O is actually spotted I, which is a broken Corsair here. We don't bother about that anymore, I don't think. So let's see if we can spot S up here. S is a broken Avenger, so he's already broken. That's, other than causing a lot more losses, that's the best we can do. The Avenger here R is disrupted, but it's also spotted by D at the moment, so maybe we'll leave that well alone. And F has T. So the only bomber we haven't tallied is Q. However, O's way over here, so maybe not. It's gonna struggle to get to that bomber. So maybe we will. I think we might. S is not a priority. We'll come and help D with R, I think. So we'll try and spot R. So that's one space, but it's +1 because of the wispy cloud. Sorry, -1 because of the wispy cloud. It's a 5. That's good enough. So we'll bring the O tally marker and put it onto R. So R, O, and R there. And that's it really. That's tally phase. Tally phase done. A lot quicker than the other turns when we had so many other squadrons. Nothing else to do but go on to the movement phase, and of course it's dogfights first. We don't have any. Escorts, none. Bombers. So the bombers will now move, and this is where we get into the bombing profile. So what we're going to be doing here is known as steep angle dive bombing. Steep angle dive bombing, which is allowed by the scenario. Normally the Avengers wouldn't be able to do it, but apparently special training as a scenario rule means that they can. So the profile for the bombing profile for steep angle bombing is that you can start within one column of your target. So these are the two targets here, and I think the do is the first two bombers. I think we'll try and actually go for the second target here. So during this, we can move forward as per our normal bomber movement, and then we can declare the bombing profile here. So let's do that with Q. So Q, and Q has the tally of A here, so it'll get to move next, although I don't think it will want to follow it down. So Q can move forward 1, and then 2, and then here 1, 2, it's half each, so that's 3. It's here, and it needs to descend 3 levels, so it's done 1, 2, 3. I think that's correct. Yeah, that's the 3 levels. So minimum of 3 levels diving is steep angle bombing attack, and you must start at altitude between 2 and 10. So we were on 6. So this completes the bombing profile here, and so we can take the bombing marker from Q, which is here, and we can place it onto the refinery there. Right, so as you can see, it's actually gone through 2 barrage flak zones here, which extend into these hexes. This is both the light flak here. So as soon as the bomber finishes movement, which on 3 movement points it does, we should put a dive marker on it. We will now roll for flak. So the barrages work a little bit like the fighters do. If you have more than one, then you still only do 1 combat roll. You just add 1 to the strength. So let's do that for the flak attack. So we're now using the bomb chart here, because it's actually during a bombing profile. So our light flak here is value 0. So for barrage and direct fire, we have these modifiers here. So flak unit strength is 0, but +1 for the second flak unit. So we were +1 on the dice, and the target's not a jet. So +1 here. So we roll on this value here, and note there are different numbers. So this is a 1, 2, and a die, whereas here it's -1, -1, 2. So this is actually a modifier to the bombing that happens because it's when it's dropping its bomb, so it'll affect the accuracy. So right, let's roll the dice for that. we have an 8. I think I've just moved a few things. Yeah, I think we're all right. So we have an 8. An 8 plus 1 is a 9. A 9 actually just gets us to the bombing value here, as you can see. So that's a -1 bombing. And we have a marker for that, like we prepared earlier. So we put the -1 bombing marker there. And that's the flak attack. Now we have the movement of the tallied fighter, which is A here. And A's broken actually. Is A broken? A is broken. So actually that tally shouldn't be there. Should have removed that. So no, there's no tally there. So next up, it will be T moving. So T is going to move 1, 2, and he's still on his bombing profile. So he doesn't descend yet. That'll be next turn. He does that. But T has F as its a tallied fighter. So that will move here. So that will go. I believe the KI-45. It's going to be 2 movement points to climb. So it climbs for 2 and moves there for 3 with a climb. But F has been tallied by A. A is, where is A? The American A is here, isn't it? So American A here can climb up and attack. So that will stop circling and will climb and will be able to attack A. Nobody's tallied A, the Allied, the British Hellcat. So therefore on to the next bomber. The next bomber is R. Now R, we want it to attack this, but it can only start at that point for bombing. So R will come across here, and we have a little bit of congestion here. Not surprising. Where are we? R. No, the Hellcat, the -1. So 1, 2. So R is coming here into this hex, and he's ready to do the bombing profile next turn. And who was following R? It's D. And where did D go? Ah, he was actually, I believe, in here. So he comes along, and O. But O is going to struggle to get there. 2 movement points to climb, 3 to there. So he's not really quite at the races anymore from his positioning there. But he's got his altitude back at least. So O is there. And nobody is following O. So then finally we have S, the bomber, moving. So S is moving along here. Just move R up a bit just to get out of the way. He will be moving eventually. S and S has nobody. It's already a broken squadron, so there's nobody tallying S. That's all the bombers done. And the next movement will be alerted fighters, which is everybody else, and they'll be moving in initiative order. So here we have the Corsair and we have the KI-43 here as well. So doesn't matter which one goes first because these are broken. I think this one will move straight across. 1, 2, 3. We don't need the climb marker anymore, and that will escape, I'm pretty sure. This Corsair here is probably worth turning around and scooting the other way. So it's 1 to turn, 2, 3. And now all these broken squadrons will all start to disappear. And then here We have the initiative order here. It's not really that important for the broken units. I think all our other units have actually moved. It's all the bombers and the fighters. The only one that didn't, I think, is H. So H here hasn't actually moved. So I will move him because the broken units are irrelevant. He, I think he will climb for 2 up here and then circle, so that he has at least some height for next turn. I think we can do that. He's on a sweep mission, so I think we can do that. Let me just check. No, I think as he hasn't tallied anything, all he can actually do is actually just move on sweeping. So he'll move over to here. That's all he can do for that move. Everybody else is broken, so a Hellcat here. Again, there is an order, but it's not really relevant anymore. So this Hellcat here will turn and head for home. So 1, 2, 3 here. The KI-44 here, I think, will disappear into cloud and get home. So dive for 1, 2, 3, +1 for the dive. So a dive marker for that unit, and he's heading for home. E here, which is broken, is going to head for home, and I do exactly the same thing. So 1, 2, 3, +1, 4, and a dive there. Right, here we have R, which is broken, and I think the same profile here. So 1, 2, 3, 4 plus the dive. I don't think the dive count is really that relevant now for us. And we have 1 broken squadron left, which is, I think they will continue straight A here. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we've right, I think yeah, I think that's it for the movement. Yeah, so it's starting to clear a little bit. Right, so we've done the movement for the squadrons, and the barrage flak attack we did already. I believe we're not going to do it again. So we're on to the combat phase. Okay, slightly confusing because it kind of says in the rules that when the units finish moving, you do the barrage flak attack. But there is actually a section here in the at the end of the movement phase saying resolve barrage fire flak attack. So maybe, yeah, I think probably works out the same thing really here. So as you move, you go through the movement phase sequence, and that's what we did. So all that done. Combat phase, any direct fire flak attacks? No, because they're all putting up a barrage at the moment. Resolve the bombing attack. So this is where we find out what's going to happen with the refinery. Right, so let's look at the bombing table and the modifiers here. So we have an altitude modifier here, and what we've done is to avoid the barrage balloons, we've let the bombs go up here, which is actually altitude 3. Here you can see. So at altitude 3, and which bomb site are we using? There's the 3 different types. We're using G on the Avenger. So G, 3 to 5 altitudes, are -2 on the dice. So that's a -2 on the dice roll here for altitude. And that's that modifier there. There is no defense modifier on the target, it's just a refinery. We get +2 for a steep angle bombing attack, so that cancels out, we're on 0. the bombing modifier inflicted by the flak attack. So that's this marker here. So we're on a -1 for that. Also, if we look further down, we've got a weather modifier. And if we look at the bombing profile we used here, we went through the wispy cloud, which adds another -1. So we're currently on -2. And finally, the next modifier we have is the bomber squadron is a veteran, and that's correct. So that's a +1 there. So +1 for Q. That's the veteran marker here for Q. Okay, so we're on -2 altitude modifier, +2 for steep angle bombing, -1 for the flak, -1 for the weather, +1 for veterans. So I think that comes out as a -1 total. So 2 dice with a -1 on the bomber table. And we're looking for high, I suppose, for the bombing. And we didn't roll high at all. We got a 4, -1 is a 3. So if we look here on the bombing table, 3, or 5 or less is 0 hits. So complete miss. Well, there you go. So that bombing squadron did absolutely no effect to the refinery. Marvellous. Okay, so that's bombing done with. Do we have air combat? So let's get our Abel, Baker and Charlie markers here. So where do we have combat? I believe we have combat not here, because O, I think, has not tallied this bomber. I believe D is attempting to have a go at R. Now where is R? Yeah, so D is on R, and so O is as well, but it's not in the same space. F here has been tallied by A. F itself is after T, so there were 2 combats here in Able. No combat here, no combat here. So just the 1 square, but 2 combats in it. Right, so I'll set those up and then we'll run through them. Here's our combat. So 2 combats. The KO-43 against the Avenger and the Hellcat against the KO-45. So here we've got 3 versus 0. So the KO-43 is a 5, but that's reduced because it's a flight. And also because it's disrupted, so -1 each time, so down to a 3. The Avenger is a 3, carrying bombs to 2, is green, goes to a 1, and is also disrupted, so is 0. And down here, the Hellcat would be a 6, down to a 4, 1 because of the climb, we're doing speed, 1 because of the climb, and -1 because it's disrupted. And the KO-45 here, which is a 5, -1 for the climb, and -1 because it's green. So here we have +3, -3. Here it's +1, -1. So let's roll both of these. The top one, +3, -3 on the dice. So +3. There are no modifiers on any of these as far as I can see. So for the roll for the Japanese, so on +3 table, we have a 6. A 6 is 1 loss, and the return fire on the -3 table with no modifier for the Avenger is a 5. Sorry, I'm zoomed in so much you can't actually see the dice. There's a 5, which is no effect. So we have 1 loss on the Avenger. Let's roll the result here. So right, so the firepower is 1 from the KO-43. Avenger is a 4 to 5 protection, so it's +1, and there is no other modifier, so just +1 on the dice. We get a 1 going to a 2, that's no effect, so there is no loss, so that's a scratch there. We'll just do the cohesion checks. So the KO-43 Let's have a look at Ki-43D. Is already disrupted and is ammo depleted. So hasn't got any loss markers. It isn't veteran. It's the attacking side, so +1 already. Depleted ammo market is -2, so +1 -2 is a -1 roll. So rolling on the cohesion for the Ki-43 -1, we have a 9. 9 go to 8 is no effect. And for the Avenger has it does have a loss marker, so there's 1 loss marker, so that's a -1, and that's about it, I think. It doesn't have ammo markers because it's just defending, and it was on the attacking side, so -1 for the Avenger. Whoa, very low roll, 3, so a 3. For a bomber, that is a disruption. It was already disrupted, so now it is broken. So well shot there. Okay, so that combat over. Now we're on to the Hellcat Ki-45 here. So +1 -1. The British side, +1 table. Let's see what we get. We get a 7. A 7 on the +1 table gets us a 1 hit. And coming back on the -1 table for the Ki-45 is a 5, which is no effect. So 1 hit on the Ki-45. So the Hellcat has a firepower of 2 and no other modifiers. So it's +2 on the dice. The protection on the Ki-45 is 4 to 5, so they're a bit tough, these guys. +2. There's 2 + 2 is 4, so that is 4 to 5, so therefore it's a straggler. And we'll put that on to F. Right. So then cohesion. The Hellcat here. The Hellcat has, this is A, has taken a loss, so -1. It is ammo depleted, so -2 on top of that, so that's -3 on the roll. So he may well break here as he's already disrupted. 7 -3 is 4, he definitely does. So that Hellcat breaks as well. And the Ki-45 has no losses, is green, so -1. Oh, I forgot the attacking side of the combat for the Hellcat, but at that roll that's not going to make any difference. So back to the Ki-45, is green for -1 and no depletion markers yet, so just the -1. A 5 going to a 4, that is a level to disruption, and as it's a flight it breaks as well. So well, another broken unit. I'll just mark that before I forget. That's on F. I'll find the right marker. There we go. Right, so the remaining fighters are struggling really here. Okay, let's put. Do we have any dogfights? So we have a broken unit in both of these, so no dogfights qualify. Right, I'll just get those units put back on the main chart. Okay, all done, and we should be now onto the administrative phase, which I don't think is relevant at all. Yeah, so yeah, I think we can roll. Squadrons can roll to escape. So what I can do, because I really don't think this is relevant anymore, I'll remove all the broken squadrons here because they're not going to be in. They're all fighters, and the Japanese are only interested in the bombers, and the Allied fighters are only interested in Japanese fighters which are going after the bombers. So I can just remove all these from the game. I'll do that off camera as part of the administration phase. So right, that's pretty much it, except for placing barrage markers. So I'm just wondering whether it's worth actually placing a barrage marker here now. So we've got sort of 3 levels. So the heavy flak, which is down here, is projecting that barrage marker because it can go one space across. These light flak markers put that. So we've got this nice tall flak barrage going on here. That sounds like a good thing to do. So yeah, I think we're done now. So that was turn 8, and we're now on to turn 9. So reasonably quick turn, I think. But I'll leave turn 9 for the next video. And if you're still watching, thanks very much, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching. See you then.